Taking a hit to bring in a goalkeeper and a sub sounds mad, but in Fantasy Premier League you can only ever make those big gains by doing things they all tell you not to do. Yes, FPL is back after the international break, and after an overall rank rise of 8 million places in 5 game weeks, it's time to really lock in and drive the momentum forward as that top 1 million ranking looms ever larger. And to do that, getting my transfers and team selection correct is paramount, and there are a few issues starting to loom large over the horizon. Yes, the fixtures are starting to turn, and the squad which has served me well so far needs freshening up, because whilst rolling transfers is great, getting FPL points is what it's all about. So today I'm going to talk through why I'm considering what those big names would call a suboptimal move, and how it may impact on the scores in both the short and the longer term, because this is a time of the season where we have to get our transfers spot on, especially for me, whose wildcard is gone, and all I have to see me through is Now's Cunning and 1 free transfer a week. And after a very rough run of form stretching all the way back to Gameweek 30 last season, I feel like Austin Powers rediscovering his mojo, so I'm pretty positive about the potential points plunderers in play. And my Gameweek 7 team had some real gold members, with those diamond differentials really coming in clutch, none more so than Lord Voldemort's absolutely shagadelic penalty. I must have watched it back 50 times and I still can't believe what I saw. Like, to have the confidence to take a penalty like that at such a crucial juncture in the game, that is the sort of player I am delighted to have in my team. It may have only been 6 points, but some 6-pointers hit differently than others, and that one was like a Mike Tyson uppercut. And of course it's all about context, and the reason it was so powerful is that so many went for Gyökeres and Gordon, whereas I stuck my neck out and said they were the wrong picks for last week, and that Voldemort and Saka were my choices. So seeing Saka take the penalty off Gyökeres and fire it home, it felt like vindication of backing my own judgment rather than going with the crowd. And nothing tastes sweeter in this game than the honey you steal from the hive mind. And yes, like everyone else in the world except for my men Nick Triggerlips and D-Unit, I got 34 points from Haaland and Semenyo. Now people may think it's boring having those players, but this game it ebbs and it flows, and sometimes when you fight the current you get swept away by the undertow and you sink without trace. You can't plunder the booty if your ship has holes in it. You need that solid structure so your cannons can fire, and those 14 penalty points from Voldemort and Saka, as well as the 31 from Gvardiol, Porro and Kudos, they were the artillery which left my rivals shipwrecked. But now those rivals have had a chance to recover, and it's all about reloading for game week 8 and winning the next battle. And when you look at my team, to be honest, it looks grand. I could easily hold my transfer and unleash a double-barreled assault in game week 9. But the secret to success in this game is always timing your transfers and getting in on the next big thing while everybody else scrambles for those fading forces. And in this team I see opportunities for improvement in every area of the field, but I do see goalkeeper as the area of improvement with the biggest potential gains. At the minute I have Vicario, and this week and next he is fine. Villa haven't quite clicked, and then Everton isn't the worst fixture. But when you think of it over the next 7 game weeks, they also have Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal and Newcastle, with Liverpool a few weeks after that. Now the argument would be this is a prime opportunity for goalkeeper save points, and many better managers than me say goalkeeper transfers are wasted points, but I don't think so. I want Nick Pope, and like I said in my walking video the other day, I am considering a hit to get him. Over the same time frame just mentioned, instead of those heavy hitters Vicario players, Pope is up against the like of West Ham, Burnley and Sunderland, and his 2 trickiest fixtures are at home. Furthermore, Newcastle's defence is superior to Tottenham's. It's one of the best in the league, and honestly I think Newcastle's second choice defence is better than Spurs too. Not only is Pope a better goalkeeper with better fixtures, but he's playing behind a better defence in whichever configuration Eddie Howe goes for. And when you watch the games and you see the shots Newcastle do concede, they are low value shots. They are often rushed or from distance, and that enables Pope to rack up the saves. He has save points in 4 from 7 games. He's only conceded to Liverpool and Arsenal, and if you take out that Arsenal game, Pope's expected goals conceded is 0.49 goals per game. To me, that is a goalkeeper who is worth a hit. And it would have to be a hit because I have 3 Newcastle players already and 2 need to come out of my team at some point soon. Now the simplest solution is to downgrade the injured Tino Livramento to one of those 4 million DEFCON daddies, which would leave extra funds for next week, potentially to upgrade my other Spurs defensive asset Pedro to one of the strongest weapons from the Arsenal. Now Alderete seems the obvious pick, with 2 attacking returns, 2 clean sheets, 4 DEFCON bonuses and 39 points, but 2 things put me off him. 1, he plays for Sunderland, and I know people say you have to detach club rivalry in this game, but it is a factor for me. And the second reason is that if you remember those pre-season fixture tickers pushed so heavily by the subscription sites, Sunderland were top for the best fixture run to start the season. Well, now it's about to get a whole lot more difficult for them, and those early season scores could soon fade to dust. I prefer Rodon of Leeds, who have an expected goals conceded of just 0.59 in their home fixtures, a figure amassed from games against Everton, Newcastle, Bournemouth and Spurs, so that figure has to be respected. Now, I don't think Leeds fixtures are that much better than Sunderland's, but for a sub-defender, I do think I prefer Rodon to Alderete. And if I do choose to replace Livramento, the other option is to get someone else in closer to Livramento's price. And if I do that, then both Chris Richards and Mark Gahey are the fail-safe options, with Gahey the obvious preference and Richards a nice fallback plan if I am priced out of Gahey. Though if I get Gahey, it would make getting one of those Arsenal defenders in for Porro in game week 9 a little bit trickier, so I'll have to have a think about what is my priority when it comes to what I want from, essentially, my second sub. The other option if I was to take the hit for Pope is to replace Harvey Barnes, who is a dangerous player but who is behind Anthony Gordon in the pecking order, even if I do suspect he will start in game week 8. I like Harvey Barnes, but 6.4 million is a lot of money for an 8th attacker who will mainly make sub appearances for his club. Sadly, most of the best replacements in his price bracket, your Declan Rice, Enzo Fernandez, Ismail Assar and even Iliman Ndiaye, they are all out of reach by just a tiny amount. So if I do replace Barnes rather than Livramento, it makes more sense to get a proper budget player in and generate some funds, and there are a few options. Now the obvious one is Caicedo, because he's the second highest scoring midfielder, he generates plenty of funds and he has the best fixtures in the medium term. The question is whether this early season form is an outlier, and I do feel it is. Caicedo has trebled his goal total for each of the last 4 seasons inside 7 games, and for all he is a phenomenal player, his current scoring rate does feel unsustainable. However, the player he'd be competing with for a place in my team is Reinders, and deciphering whether Caicedo is a better option than Reinders is tricky. My instinct tells me Reinders will score more points over the season, but at a far less consistent rate, and that his returns will be unpredictable. And the problem with that is I know that every week I will chase the glory of Reinders and I'll end up missing out on an extra 2 points from Caicedo, and it'll never seem a lot in the moment, but over time it'll compound to a significant score, at which point I'll get frustrated, I'll bench Reinders for Caicedo and I'll miss out on a huge Reinders haul. We all know that's how it'll go, we've seen it all before, and that's what's putting me off Caicedo. So instead of Caicedo, I need either a permanent substitute option or someone who can displace Reinders from my team. Now I still like Yankuba Minter, but now I've missed the Wolves game, I think he can wait. GW8. Newcastle, Man United, Leeds and Palace, it's a decent run of games, but it does not scream a run to sign such a precocious yet unfulfilled talent as Yankuba Minter. Now, with Gambia not qualifying for the African Cup of Nations, that run of game weeks from 15 to 20 looks a much better time to bring him in. And it's a bit similar with Lucas Paquetá. He's got decent games and he is on penalties, but he's another player who is too expensive to be a sub, but without a strong enough case to bench Reinders. And look, I could keep running down the names of those midfielders 5.5 million and above. I could make cases for and against all of them, but it will all come back to the same point. I don't think any of those midfielders are undisputedly worth benching Reinders for, and I don't really want the headache of having to choose every week. So if I do choose to facilitate Pope by selling Barnes rather than Livramento, it makes sense to pick a cheap option to sit on my bench who may be able to contribute in an emergency. And though he has fallen out of favour in FPL circles, I do think Josh King remains the best option for this role. He's playing every game, even as a false 9 last time out. He clearly has potential, but King isn't getting the minutes or returns to justify starting ahead of Reinders, so he can sit on my bench getting his 1 or 2 points a week, and if he does get a return then his price will rise, and if he doesn't then he's fine on the bench. Bringing in King would generate nearly £2 million, which would mean down the line I can replace Reinders with a more powerful starter, someone like Anthony Gordon, Ismail Assar, Eberici Eze or Cody Gakpo, or I have the flexibility to upgrade Livramento or even Agbadou to whichever Arsenal defender I want in game week 9. However, if I sacrifice an extra £500,000 I can get a much stronger sub with multiple avenues to points, but who I am happy to bench most weeks too. Now, one way to achieve this is to bring in Granit Xhaka, who is already on 32 points. He has 4 DEFCON bonuses and 3 assists, but he plays for Sunderland, which makes him very easy for me to bench. And I'll be honest with you, like I always am, I don't hate this idea. Ending selection difficulties by signing players who I don't want to do well, but who I know might do if they do end up in my team. Well, it's a crazy idea, but it might just work. It might well be the paracetamol pick, the one which keeps those selection headaches to a minimum, but which allows me to operate at the best possible level. However, it could also go the other way, and I could end up clouding my diamonds with a tainted taunter on the bench, a player from my rivals in my squad, outscoring my starter by 1 or 2 points a week, and that selection headache may well become a self-induced migraine. So if I do go for a 5 million man, there are 2 players who I would go for. The first is Sean Longstaff, purely because I like the lad. I respect what he did for Newcastle, and if Longstaff is my sub outscoring my starters, it would make me smile knowing his Leeds move has been a success. Plus, at the time of recording, he is £4.9 million, and that 0.1 million could make all the difference further down the line. It could buy me an extra day to decide on a big dilemma. The other option, arguably the more logical one, is James Garner of Everton. He's played every minute, he's on corners, he's already got a goal and an assist, and he has 3 DEFCON bonuses in 7 games. Garner's not someone I will ever be tempted to start, but he'd be a good choice as cover. I do rate him as a pick, and he could well be the one. But then Longstaff also has a goal and an assist. I believe he's taken a few set pieces too, and he only has 1 fewer DEFCON bonus from 2 fewer starts. So really, Longstaff and Garner seem equally as good as each other, except Longstaff gives me that warm feeling in my heart and an extra 0.1 million in the bank. So for me, he has to be the one. And even with the extra cost for Longstaff over King, I could still get the Arsenal defender of my choosing in for Livramento in game week 9, or if I opt to replace Livramento with Big Dan Burn, I could still replace Reinders the week after with Ismail Assar, Enzo Fernandez or Declan Rice, all of whom seem big upgrades on Reinders at this moment in time. Up front, to be honest, I don't see the need to change anyone. Voltemada is confident, he's in form, and his teammates are adapting to his prodigious talents. Haaland is Haaland and nothing more needs to be said, and Joao Pedro, well, for once, selling him wouldn't free up the Newcastle slot required to get Pope, so it makes no sense from that perspective. But more to the point, Joao Pedro is rested, he is nailed, he has 2 goals and 3 assists in 7 starts, and he has a delicious run of fixtures. Unless he gets injured, I don't see any need to sell Joao Pedro before game week 13 at the earliest, and I think those who do are taking a big risk, especially given his ownership is still so high. It's not just that selling Joao Pedro isn't my top priority, I think selling him is a bad move for anyone at this point. So with all that considered, I'm pretty sure my transfers will be Vicario and Barnes to Pope and Longstaff for a 4-point hit. And I know taking a hit for a goalkeeper and a substitute is not the sort of strategy FPL's elite operators would advise. But the simple fact is, having played my wildcard in game week 3, until we get those AFCON bonus transfers in game week 16, there will always be a bigger priority for my 1 free transfer in my squad than changing my goalkeeper. I want Pedro Porro gone, I want Agbadou gone, maybe even Reinders gone, Livramento's injured, and that's on top of Barnes and Vicario. So the question is, how much do I want Nick Pope? And I want Nick Pope more than I want a lie-in tomorrow. I think he comfortably outscores Vicario in the coming weeks, and I think he ends the season top of the goalkeeper rankings, and it won't be particularly close. So every game week which goes by without Pope in my squad is just points on the table, and even if I end up losing out this week, I think Pope outscores Vicario by more than 4 points between now and game week 16 when we get those bonus transfers. So with all that context, taking the hit for Nick Pope now is the move which makes the most sense. So, assuming the stars align and nobody gets injured, my game week 8 team will look like this. Agbadou's, Benchins and Livramento's injury means Senesi, Porro and Gvardy all pick themselves in defence. In midfield, I think Saka, Semenyo, Reinders and Kudos have huge points potential, and people are still sleeping on Kudos a bit. And what is exciting about Kudos this week is FPL Meerkat's research, and that shows that over a third of Villa's expected goals conceded has been to right wingers like Kudos. Now, I doubted Kudos in pre-season, but he is looking like Tottenham's new talisman, so do not be too shy to sign him. And up front, it's Haaland, Voltemada and Joao Pedro, all very exciting options. And yes, Haaland will be my captain because my team has enough differentials that I believe in, so I can make my gains from them, which means I can minimise the risk while maximising the upside. It's a sound strategy, and having already risen 8 million places in 5 game weeks, I see no reason why my team can't continue to claw its way up the ladder. There are great players I can't get to this week, and they may well do me damage, but that 11 looks exciting to me, even if I gift my opponents a 4-point head start. It is rare in this game that taking a hit for a goalkeeper and a substitute makes sense, but it is a calculated risk I think will pay off. In this game of chance, all you can do is put yourself in a position to get lucky, and I feel the move which does that for me is the divine intervention of Nick Pope. But he is a bit injury prone, so what odds those vengeful FPL gods strike him down after 10 minutes? Ha ha!